Hi folks, comrades, aka Silly Cyber here, and I thought I'd go over my what I call the Mrrshan POUNCER strategy that I posted on Realms Beyond, and I promised that I'd do a playthrough testing it out, and here it is. Don't watch this video if you don't want spoilers. I'll go ahead and post the earliest autosave I have of this game. I have autosave from 2306, which is not right at the start, but I think I'd opened up some research in a few fields by then, but that's the only major decision I had taken at that point. So I'll go ahead and post that on the forum. So feel free to play that if you want to play alongside this in parallel to compare performance. And so spoilers ahead, just beware of that. So let's go ahead and begin. I'm going to play through this in 4x speed so we can see what's going on. I am playing on Impossible on medium. All right, so we start up in the top northwest corner, I guess you could call it, and there's only one star within 3 parsecs. So once again, I didn't really make any game-changing decisions there. For the 2306 save, that was the only option, so it's kind of a no-brainer. Send your colony ship there. Now, one thing that probably will attract controversy is I try to peek into all of the research fields on the very first turn. And for some reason, though, even allocating 6 research points, it didn't let me peek into computer tech or planetology tech, which were kind of the most important that I wanted to check. So now I'm on turn 2 peeking into those remaining fields to see what I can do. So there's no improved eco restoration. That's a bit unfortunate, but we do have a reduced industrial waste 80% in construction tech, so that's going to be one of my first priorities. So here we go, maxing construction tech. And we're going to seed it with probably 1 turn of full research, about 26 RP. And I'm gonna go ahead and seed planetology too, since we have the +10 terraforming, which is a great little cheap tech to get early on. Helps out your planet's growth, max pop, and also max factories as well. And even if you're not at max pop yet, it does edge your planetology level up slightly, which might not seem like much, but it actually each population, even aside from factories, produces a little bit more for each planetology level, so that can add a few production per turn to your early game just from researching that very cheap tech. So it's definitely worth it. So we are industrializing, but we're also trickling in. Although here I am going to go ahead and seed propulsion. So once again, I know Sula is going to have my neck with this early research, and you know, I understand that you can't go overboard with it. You have to have enough factory production to kind of still be building some factories and also have some buffer so you can edge the interest trickles up. It's kind of hard to explain unless you know how this game works, but you know what I'm talking about for those Master of Orion veterans. Yeah, so there is a bit of micromanaging here in the beginning of the game, trying to just squeeze the most efficient research out of just enough research points devoted to this stuff to use the interest, but ideally no more than that. And of course, the forum patch definitely helps with those little lights that show you how to do that. So we're chasing away some Klakon scouts, which is good because that white star is a size 30 minimal rich or ultra rich planet. All right, so that's non-negotiable. We've got to have that. That's and thankfully it's only 4 parsecs away, and we're researching range 4. So, and you'll see why it was actually a good thing. Ended up being a very lucky thing that I started researching so early, as you will quickly find out here in a little bit. Not to spoil the surprise, but there's some early game intrigue here. All right, so, which I'll go ahead and talk about the Pouncer strategy um, right now while we're kind of going through some of this adjusting. Um, Pouncer strategy basically involves letting the AI colonize these frontier worlds for you, and then pouncing either immediately on it, and sending it over a small invasion force to take over the planet, where the invasion only has to kill 2 or 3 enemy population, and where you quickly dispatch air superiority to shoot down any other incoming transports, and if need be, bomb the population down to a manageable level. I call that the phase 1 type invasion. Or there's a phase 2, which involves a full-scale ground invasion, keeping the population and planets and factories of the enemy planet intact, where you can get technology. Of course, to pull that off, you need several planets. You're going to need more population than just your 2 starting planets. Which we do have some nice 2 starting planets here. Proxima, I think, is size 75, so that's pretty fortunate here. And we also start off on the rim, which I think is kind of a good thing here. Because we might be angering some neighbors with this strategy, and it'd be nice to have to only take on 1 at a time. So even if you're, in any case, if I were following this strategy, I would just let the Klakons colonize that minimal ultra-rich world, as crazy as that sounds. But the idea would be I'd have a ship kind of ready, a combat ship ready to go take air superiority, and also send an invasion over at the same time and quickly take it back over. And Sola made a good point that colony ships are not that expensive. They're run on average about 500 production per 500 production total, which is about what a combat ship is going to run. Actually, combat ship that I end up designing here in a second was like 450, so it's actually even cheaper than a colony ship. So you might think they're about comparable, though. See here, look at this. They brought along 1 single fighter that chased off my scout. So even as early as, I think this is like 2315, the Klakons already have control of that planet. And I think I just got range 4 tech, so it's not even like I could have. I mean, I could have invested in like some long range fighters, but that's just really janky. I don't know. That's a huge resource detour. You'll see here, and actually, I think I turn this what seems to be a bad stroke of luck here, turn it around very quickly here. Designing the ship, I debate putting a shield on it, but it's so much cheaper to just keep it simple. All right. Ship cost is definitely important. So I've got propulsion and plantology in the percentages, so that range 4 should pop at any moment. We'll be able to send something over there to reclaim that planet, because we need that planet. That's the linchpin basically of this whole run. If for any of you, we'll see if anyone else tries to play this save, and how they deal with the Klakon expansion onto that planet. Because I imagine in most games the Klakons are going to get there pretty quick. So I am curious to see. So I went ahead with improved terraforming plus 20. Another 10 population. Each of our planets is going to be good, especially with that ultra-rich planet. It's going to be huge. And I don't really know as of yet if I have any planets that would in the nearby area that would take advantage of like controlled tundra or whatnot, which I know Sol is gonna wring my neck up again about that, but because I'm trying to economize on scouts. I guess I could have scouted that blue star a long time ago. And by the way, hinty hint, that actually does have a dead planet at that star. So, I mean, I guess it could have been worth it to get controlled dead, but either way, you're going to be adding about 30, 40 population to your empire. It's just a question of whether you're going to do it with an extra planet or with building up your existing planets. I want to build up that ultra rich planet as big as I can. So I think it works out to about the same. So here I'm redesigning my my cruiser since I can fit more lasers on it now with the tech with the propulsion tech upgrade. So this is what I'm going to be sending over to Paranor along with my troop transports to take it over. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do really more of like a phase 2 invasion. I'll take whatever factories they've already constructed, because they've probably already constructed some factories, with that being an ultra-rich planet at Paranor. And who knows, I might even get techs out of it, right? In any case, I didn't really... It was so early in the game that they colonized that on my frontier that, you know, it was... there's nothing I think anyone could have done, really. I mean, it was like 2315 by the time they got there with an armed escort, which is kind of crazy. You know, I didn't have a ship ready to interdict the population reinforcements that the AI will send to the new world, so we're going to have to wade through a little bit of population, hopefully not too much. I'm going to send, you know, half of Proxima over there. Hopefully that'll do it. Hopefully they don't. Surely by this point they won't have any crazy ground combat tech. So going back to this question of you know, whether it actually saves money to take over an AI planet like this as opposed to building your own colony ship. You know, Solo pointed out that colony ships and large combat ship, which is going to be what you probably need to get air superiority, are going to cost about the same thing. So if you just look at it that way, it seems like you're not saving any money by letting the AI colonize first and then taking it over. But here's the thing. I found from experience that if you just send out colony ships on their own to one of these frontier worlds like we see here, a turn or two later, the AI is going to show up with, you know, a strong air superiority fleet that you can't deal with, and it's going to either bomb your new colony into the ground or take it out from under you, and you've just subsidized the AI's expansion. And you know, good luck getting that back, because what you haven't been doing most likely is investing in your own combat ships or your own military tech, right? So realistically, on Impossible, to, you know, backline worlds are one thing. You can probably count on getting a backline world under your control just through peaceful expansion. But on Impossible, any world that's out on the frontier, even one that's within what you would normally consider the first ring of your rightful expansion space, is going to be contested by the AI, regardless of whether the AI actually, you know, doesn't like you or tries to declare war. It's going to be contested by something like this, some sort of force like this. Here we've got 38 laser fighters, which thankfully we're the Mrrshan, so we are going to, yeah, look at that. They did 20 damage, but they're not going to, I think they did 10 damage there. So they got me down to like 70 out of 100 HP, but boom, I killed off their entire fleet. And here, boom, ground combat, nuclear engines, Hyper-V rockets. We can go straight on to Tier 2 of the weapons. That worked out better than I could have hoped for. And I got really lucky there because I only stole 16 factories. And ordinarily you wouldn't be guaranteed of getting even one tech, much less two techs from that sort of capture. But I'll admit, maybe my run isn't the most representative of the merits of the strategy, because I got super lucky there. But hey, stuff like that, you open up the possibility for stuff like that happening if you're willing to be more aggressive in this early game. Now, the drawback to taking that planet in that fashion, rather than trying to beat the AI to it with your own colony ship and escort, is now we're at war with the Clacons. So, but the thing is, we've got that ultra-rich frontier world. That's where they're gonna. That's the only place they can really reach. So, we've got a choke point we can defend against them very easily, especially since it's in a nebula, which you might think, oh, that's bad. And it might be problematic later on in the game, but as for now, what that actually means is, originally I thought, well, we should probably go right on to getting neutron pellet guns, right, for defense. But the thing is, if that's going to be our frontline world, it's going to be under attack. We can make do with lasers until, honestly, the end of the game. Look, Clacon transport's destroyed. It's ours. Clacons, clackaroos. Um, funny enough, in a nebula planet, you could make lasers work until the end of the game if need be, because there's no shielding, right? So you could stack, 400 lasers on a ship instead of putting, 8 or 10 megabolt cannons or whatever. You could do that and make it work. So weapons, because of that unique circumstance, ordinarily for the pouncing strategy, I would need to invest in some neutron pellet guns at this point and get that research seeded and going, because I would, anticipate needing a weapon upgrade sooner or later. But here, once again, probably atypical for the strategy, but here we can afford to back off of that and just focus on industrializing this. I think our existing fleet is more than sufficient. I might add a few laser fighters in there just to kind of distract the enemy. I've found that it's good to have two ships of some sort here in the early game, because a lot of times the AI will send these colony ships with their invasion fleets, and sooner or later they'll start arming those colony ships. Now the question is, what do they arm them with? If you're really unlucky, I've seen colony ships by like 2340 or 2350 armed with fusion bombs with like a 5-rack, like 5 times fusion bombs on like I had one world that I saw the AIs. I remember one game they had like a couple of laser fighters and 4 colony ships that they were sending at my new frontier planet. I was like, oh, no problem. I'll throw up a few missile bases. I've got one little batch of fighters I can use. Surely the colony ships aren't that dangerous, right? Well, they'd thrown fusion bombs onto their colony ships, and that was actually unstoppable. I remember they took over that frontier world. But the thing is, if you have 2 ships, you can kind of block the AI from, or at least slow it down from approaching your planet. And of course, if you have 3 ships, you can block any one movement bomber in its tracks in the early game here. So sometimes that can be useful to take that sort of precaution. And you never know what kind of crazy things the AI is going to do. Sometimes it will throw nuclear bombs or fusion bombs onto its colony ships once it starts arming them. So I think you're going to see me build a few laser fighters here just to be safe. And actually, since we have nuclear engines, that's really nice. We can build 2 movers that move at warp 2 and that have 2 speed in combat, which is really nice, and also pretty good evade too. So it's pretty nice, in my opinion. And also, we also have already seen that we have inertial stabilizer available in our propulsion tree. So I'm probably going to go back and get that, the very next thing, which that plus neutron pellet guns plus the Mrrshan inherent attack bonus we can build cheap fighters with 3 moves in combat, warp 2, with a defense evade rating of 6, and with an attack rating of 4 with neutron pellet guns. That's a design that will be relevant for heck, I would say 100 years practically before that really becomes obsolete. The only thing that would make that obsolete is, once the enemy starts getting up into what, level 7 shielding, or like energy pulsars, or really good attack level, really good battle computers. But that the AI is not going to start fielding those ships until probably like 23 or 2475, 175 turns into the game. They might get the technology for that earlier on, but they're not going to be fielding anything like that for a long time. So we can get to that inertial stabilizer, get those neutron pellet guns online. We can build some cheap fighters that will be pretty hard to hit, pack quite a bit of a punch, and be relevant for pretty much the rest of the game. So, and at which point we can contemplate. I won't say turn off weapons research, but we won't be so pressed to get better beam weapons. We can focus on better missile technology, or bombs as need be. So it opens up a lot of flexibility. Of course, AI starts to build ships with repulsor beams. Might have to deal with that, but deal with that as a that also is probably not until 2024, 50 that you would see something like that at the earliest. Or at least the AI might have the tech for that as early as 24, 25, heck. But a lot of times they just sit on their state-of-the-art tech for whatever reason and don't redesign their ships until it's already very obsolete. So here we are. So you see, we are we are developing our factories now. I'm sure Sula would probably have all of his planets maxed by now, which we're not quite there. We're missing probably like 40 factories from Fiaras, and I think we're about halfway industrialized on Proxima. So we're a little bit behind on that, but we've gotten a lot out of it at the same time. We're researching. We got that range 4 just in time to pounce on that one planet. So I think that makes a big difference. So now I finally have some scout patrols out to try to dissuade the AI from colonizing some of those frontier worlds, and I've even sent a Wolverine or two out there. So we'll see what happens with that. So far, we've only met the Clacons, and of course they're angry with us. Having that ultra rich world is nice. I'm not gonna lie. Allows us to. You can see we're devoting most of our production to research at this point. There's just a trickle of factory production going into Proxima, which for these tier 2 techs, that's what it takes. Which you might think that's kind of a waste. Maybe it'd be better to pause and finish building factories first. I don't know. I guess if you did the math, maybe that would be better. I want to get propulsion or range 6 so I can go colonize that jungle planet ASAP. And planetology will be nice too. That'll be an immediate boost. Okay, we met the Alkari. There we go. That's where they are. They got 3 planets. Clacons only have 2. So it looks like the Clacons this game, I've kind of stunted their expansion inadvertently, and they might end up being one of those. It's rare to see weak Clacons. They're usually one of the stronger races, even when played by the AI. But we might end up seeing that rare exhibit of a weak Clacon enemy in this game, which is good because they don't like us, and they're going to continue to trickle forces against, they're going to continue to send random squads against us, but I don't anticipate having any problem with that, anything because they don't have a lot of production capacity. They don't have very good tech, and besides, like I said, we're in that nebula where the sheer Mrrshan firepower is going to be decisive. See, I'm not too worried about that. Well, depending on what is on the Horseman design, though, could make a difference. So I think you're going to see me build another large ship. This one a 2-mover, so that I can kind of artillery fire against their fleet. I can, if you put some heavy lasers, and then a missile on it, you can move in within 2 range, fire, and then move back. And if they have just 1-movers, or if they have like slow missile ships with slow nuclear missiles, they're not going to be able to do anything against that sort of 2-mover artillery ship. So that's another feasible design you can use in addition to sort of what I call the Pouncer design, which is kind of just raw firepower, putting as many lasers or pellet guns or ion cannons as you can on it. And of course, I was a little concerned about that invasion fleet because, like I said, you don't know what's on those colony ships. So this is the reason why I wanted to design and build another large cruiser to defend Paranar, because Paranar is so important. Absolutely cannot risk losing it, and it can more than defend itself with its own production. It doesn't need to leech off of the rest of the empire. We did get the Alkari sign up for a trade agreement for whatever that's worth. We will see if that helps keep them at bay. It'd be nice to not have to fight them. I think they are in alliance with the Klakons as well. So, and they are honorable though, so maybe that will dissuade them from just declaring war on us unprovokedly. Yeah. So now that we've got this stuff in the percentages, I can dial the research way back and go back to factory production. And not, I ended up having to sacrifice a few turns of factory production to get that into the percentages. But now that it's in the percentages, we can go back to factory production, and I don't know. I don't think it'd be interesting to someone. So this was a tough decision here, by the way. Inertial stabilizer versus sublight drives. Normally, I'd want to just go ahead in the tech trees, but inertial stabilizer is so good. I got to go back and get that. I don't think it set us back all that much. Our 2 starting planets are almost industrialized now. I do try to get I see what they have. They don't have anything that I want. I was kind of curious. I do try here in a second to try to sign up the silicoids for a trade agreement, a minimal trade agreement, but they weren't having it. They weren't having it either. And I do try to get the Klakons to make peace, which I gotta think sooner or later they're going to do that, because they're just sending these pointless attack fleets into Paranar and getting destroyed. So maybe they'll take the hint that it's hopeless once they lose enough, fleet. Once they suffer enough lopsided defeats. And I do also end up sending some tribute to them, some technologies, some of my low-tier technologies, to try to improve relations, get them to make peace, because I prefer not to bring the Alkari into war with me. I don't know if I'll be one of the top 2 contenders for the first council vote. I mean, it doesn't seem like I have a whole lot of population, but then again, sometimes the AI really struggles to expand too. And in any case of a tiebreaker, the human always is the one who runs, which might not be ideally what I really want if everyone hates me in the early game. So that can be tricky. Although I believe, looking at the Diplo, the Alkaris, and maybe even the Klakons had gotten themselves into wars with the Bolrathi and the Sakra over on the other side of the galaxy, which who knows what's going on there between them, but somehow they got themselves into a war. So in any case, I don't think I'm going to be totally isolated among a AI love fest. Um, and here's what I'm talking about with that fast two-moving artillery ship with the heavy lasers. You can fire and then back away. And I wanted to kind of take out that missile ship because it's actually sporting a couple of copies of the fast version of nuke missiles, the 2-rack version. Which, by the way, if you're ever building missile ships, that's absolutely what you want to use, the 2-rack, not the 5-rack. 5-rack missiles go so slow as to be pointless. And I do end up losing some fighters there to those nuclear missiles because I thought I'd be able to outrun them, to dodge them, but I don't know why. I guess they caught. Well, I guess if they move 3 spaces a turn, that's about fast enough to catch up. So, but yeah, we easily, other than losing a few fighters, we easily repelled that. So, and we're getting ready to send a fast 2-mover colony ship up to that jungle planet. So we'll have 4 planets. The jungle planet is poor. It's a size 55 poor planet, but it's better than nothing, right? And if you do, colony ships aren't that expensive, like Sula said. So if you can afford to, if you have backline worlds, I would suggest, regardless of Pouncer strategy or whatever, yeah, go ahead and settle those. The main thing with the frontier worlds, the thing that makes them expensive is not so much the colony ship itself, but having to escort it, which, it's going to delay you another 5 turns if you're going to need an escort with it as well. And in those 5 turns, at least my luck and my experience, the AI is going to get there first. So you might as well just, count on that. And so the dilemma is not, do I build a colony ship or do I build an escort, right? It's, do I build just an escort and then take over the AI's colony when the AI colonizes it, or do I build an escort and a colony ship, right? That's really the dilemma, because you really cannot send unescorted colony ships out to these frontier planets. The AI is just gonna pounce on it. They're gonna do to you what I'm suggesting you do to them. And unfortunately, they have an easier time of it because they have ridiculous production capacity, and no one gets mad at them for picking random fights like they do with you for behaving opportunistically. The AI doesn't have to worry about, usually at least, igniting some big opponent love fest, alliance against them for doing one little aggressive thing in the early game. Although I guess it could happen theoretically. I don't know if I don't think there's any discriminatory human-directed code in the AI's programming in this game. I do think they treat the human pretty much the same as each other, but I guess it's just their production is so much larger. They usually have an easier time of getting away with their opportunistic pouncings. Right, so here I'm checking out that Alkari world. It's not their home world. It's their, I guess, their second planet. It's starting to get set up. See, I keep giving them this tribute, and it is improving relations. See, they're up to uneasy, but they still won't make peace. So, getting kind of nervous because, it'd be nice just to be done with that, leave that behind me, because I think if I can get the war with the Klakons over with, the honorable Alkari, are unlikely to declare war until, you get way out ahead of the rest of the pack. And then even the honorable Alkari will break, treaties and attack you if need be at that point. But, otherwise, if I can get on the Klakons' good side and not anger the Alkari with that alliance of theirs with the Klakons, I think I can keep the Alkari on good terms for quite a while, at least long enough to give me some breathing room. Now here I'm sending 6 population to Paranar to take advantage of the terraforming plus 20. It's going to be on the way to top that up ASAP to its new max population of 50, which is nice. Ultra-rich planet in the early game with population of 50 is just, it's just, and on the frontier too, where you're going to be building military anyways, it is nice. But I had to fight for it. Wouldn't have gotten it if I wasn't willing to, you know, be aggressive and risk this war with the Klakons. So we'll see. You know, the only way it could come back to bite me is if it causes some diplomatic cascade and I lose an early council vote. But I don't think that's going to happen because the Sakra and the Bulrathi seem to be, according to my Diplo reports, in some opposing alliance of sorts. And they would vote for me, you know, especially if we haven't met them. You know, if they're enemies of my opponent, they'll automatically vote for me. And I think that would be enough votes to stave off a council defeat. And then the only question would be, you know, dealing with, like, the Alkari harassing me along with the Klakons, which Alkari, yeah, that would be annoying. You know, especially if they start packing like death spores or something really annoying. You know, their ships could be hard to take down before they close with the planet, and they can be fast moving too. So the Alkari are some tricksy opponents when played by the AI. So here's a pretty large force of enemy fighters. If I had to go toe-to-toe with these, I'd probably lose, to be honest, because that is enough firepower probably to take out a large. But here, you see I'm whittling them down. And they take a little pot shot at the planet. I don't think it really does much damage. They continue to chase me around. So I'm really whittling them down now. And they're down to low enough level where I can go in for the kill, and they're not going to... Yeah, there we go. So it seems like the... Oh, and by the way, the silicoids have been, colonizing my neighborhood. And Pouncer strategy doesn't work too well with them when they colonize uninhabitable worlds. That's another kink in the Pouncer strategy that needs to be... And also the Bulrathi. If you're neighboring the Bulrathi, at least forget about doing any sort of phase 2 invasion where you try to take the tech along with the factories and everything. Maybe phase 1 would work if you jump in there right away. Well, they only have 2 or 3 pop, and you prevent reinforcement transports from getting there. So yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out what to do with the silicoids. It's tempting to go. I could go and try and take that ocean planet, that size 65 ocean planet in the south. But that would mean making another enemy, and I will have to wait. I mean, if I'm going to practice what I preach, then I guess that would be the logical next move, is to maybe wait for the silicoids to build up a little industry there, and then go and take it. Although I don't know if I have the population to really, and it's so far away too. Transports would take so long. It's not really in my first expansion ring, so if it were a little closer and a smaller planet, maybe I might consider it. I don't know. I might just leave the silicoids be and try to be friends with them. Build up my backlines, and you know, the Pouncer strategy, it did what it did. It got that one planet, which I didn't really have a choice of. You know, resorting to the Pouncer strategy if I wanted that planet. The Klakons colonized it so early. There was no way I was going to get my own colony ship there in time. So, you know, my willingness to be aggressive there has so far paid off with the ultra-rich planet. Maybe I can ride that plus my backline worlds to a comfortable mid-game position, get the Klakons you know, at peace again, and just kind of build up from there. So it's kind of what we're looking at. I haven't played on past this yet, so give me your feedback, or even Feel free to try the challenge, try the scenario yourself. If you want to see if you can do better, maybe with a more factory-oriented approach to start out with, that would be interesting to see. But I'll go ahead and post this on the Realms Beyond forums, and I'll see you again later.